Hello and welcome back to the Q&A. So, as always, if you've got a question, leave it down in the comments and I will eventually get to it. But before I get into the questions, I just want to quickly throw something at your brain. So, I've been changing up coverage on the channel a little bit. I'm trying to have a little bit more of a focus, essentially on gameplay and playing the game and just stuff. So that's why you've been seeing soloing guides, the odd gold making guide, but in general I just want to do more gameplay. One of the reasons for that's because I kind of want to play the game more, but another reason is that there's not that much interesting news and discussion going on with 6.1. I think it's got to the stage where it's just like, yeah, you know, 6.1's a bit of a dud, we'll have to wait till 6.2, and really that's about it. So I'm going to be going and doing a little bit more in terms of gameplay. Now, if there is any gameplay-related video or guide that you're interested in, or a topic that you'd like me to run off and research, throw it down in the comments. I'm just sort of gathering some ideas now for stuff that I could do in the future, but hopefully the next few weeks of content will be a little bit more fun, and hopefully will give you just something extra to do when you log in, which I think is something that perhaps some of us might sorely need. Anyway, let's head into the questions. So the very first one is a big question. It's from Christian, who said, "What do you think the next expansion after Warlords of Draenor will be?" Now, that's a very big question, and I've actually been thinking about similar stuff recently anyway. So I think that, of course, as many of you may have guessed, we're going to get something related with the South Seas. However, I think that Gul'dan is, well, he's not going to be involved, but essentially in the, I say the South Seas, just the seas in general. Let's forget about that south bit, just the seas. There is an island with a temple on it, and in that temple is where Gul'dan in our timeline died, and there's a lot of very interesting power going on there, including the power that Gul'dan sought to get. Basically, Sagara said, "Yo, Gul'dan, I want you to go into this temple, do some whack shit," and Gul'dan was like, "Sure thing." He grabbed not half the horde, he grabbed a few clans over, screwed over the horde in the Second War. He's basically the reason why they didn't conquer the whole planet, but when he got in, he got torn to shreds by demons. I think that we are powerful enough to face whatever demons they may be, and of course a lot of this, like the talk and speculation about future expansions, has been centering around the idea that the Legion will come, or sorry, the Naga will rise after the Legion come. And that, I think, ties in quite heavily. So I think there could be some really interesting stuff going on with the Legion and with the Tomb of Gul'dan. And I think when that really solidified in my head is when I watched the cinematic at the end of patch 6.1, and I was just thinking to myself, but look, I suppose slight spoiler, no story or plot spoilers, but it, as you may imagine, does contain Gul'dan in it. And I was just thinking to myself, you know, they've been putting Gul'dan front and center a lot, and a lot of the characters that were involved in many old stories are now in the forefront of players' minds. And yet, all players do know that, or at least a good majority or proportion of players do know that this is an alternate timeline that we're participating in, but people are familiar with the idea of Gul'dan and his story, so going and, going back to, say, this temple place in the seas, that might actually work quite well, because people will be familiar with Gul'dan, they'll just, you know, in general have a bit of a basis to go into as far as the lore goes. So I'd say you could get that expansion, and maybe they could do a mixture of both the Naga and the Legion. I don't know how they'd pull that off exactly. Of course, it's also possible that N'Zoth could be there. N'Zoth, if you're not aware, is I think he might be the only current old god who's actively working against us. He's basically the guy who's responsible for all the Deathwing stuff, and, well, he's probably now scheming some sort of thing against us with the Naga. And of course, another thing as well, which could be pretty handy in terms of what they've been doing with the Warlords of Draenor story, is that Ashara, of course, was heavily involved in the Burning Legion, and she's also heavily involved in the Naga, and the stuff that's going on with the old gods, that's all intertwined as well. So there's a lot of familiarity there with players. We know about Gul'dan, we know about Ashara, we know about the Legion, so I think it's a good way to just ease people in to whatever that expansion could be. So I'd say, you know, we'll get some zones in and around the Maelstrom, we'll get the various islands, perhaps we would also get Kul'Tiras. I'd really like that. Though I suppose Kul'Tiras would be more of a human thing, or an alliance thing, so I don't know what the Horde would get. Though it could also be possible that maybe a part of the world event for that expansion could be, say, Kul'Tiras falling, or some big thing happening, and then Kul'Tiras being a sort of broken ruin that both factions share as an endgame zone or something. It's hard to say really, but I think it's going to be something related to the Seas of Azeroth. I think it's at the stage now where they've got the requisite lore, sort of familiar in people's heads in terms of the main concepts anyway, and it could work. Personally, though, I think it would be really cool, you know, going around islands. Maybe they could employ that garrison tech into something pretty cool. I doubt it would be, say, a pirate cove or hideout. I suppose I sort of doubt that it would be a ship, because that just seems... As much as it seems like a really badass idea, I don't know if the implementation would be any good, but maybe they'd have some good use for the garrison tech. Then of course, you know, raids, dungeons, etc., lots of world content. It should be pretty interesting. What we do know, however, is that whatever this expansion will be, they're actually almost done with it, or at least they're really making great progress. They have been putting a lot of their staff into working on the future content, as we know, and that's perhaps why 6.1 was a little bit lackluster. But because of that, yeah, that patch, or not the patch, that expansion is probably in a pretty, not near done, but like it's pretty far along at this stage, I'd say. It'll be very interesting to see what happens when BlizzCon rolls around, because we will almost definitely get an announcement then. Okay, next, let's move on to another question, which is pretty interesting. Essentially, I was asked, do you like the character development of Yrel in Warlords of Draenor, and does it match the kind of hype that Blizzard advertised? I don't really know if it's hype that they advertised, but I know what you mean. They did kind of put her front and center as the main Alliance character. And I'd say that overall, yes, I do like the character development. It was quite well done. I mean, there was certainly one or two cheesy bits, and I think some of the voice acting was kind of inconsistent with her, but that's generally a problem with Blizzard. I mean, whoever does the voice direction just needs to be woken up a little bit. I feel bad. I've seen them talk in the collector's editions, behind-the-scenes DVDs, but I really think the voice direction at Blizzard could have a good bit more just nuance, and it could be better. But anyway, for the most part though, she, I suppose, was, as far as WoW characters go, pretty well voice acted. I liked her character arc. I thought that was decently cool, and the endgame stuff was really good actually, especially the Trial of the Exarchs thingy in the Garrison campaign. So overall, yes, I do like the character a lot, and I think it definitely shows a lot of promise. This is one of those times when Blizzard completely just invented a character out of nowhere that wasn't pre-existing in the lore, and just put her into the game, and, you know, just go ham with it, see what happens. And they've managed to create a character that's compelling, that a lot of players like, and I think that really does bode well for the future. Hopefully they will be able to do that in future expansions. That'll be very good. However, one thing I should say is that I kind of hope that she comes back with us in some way, because she's got no equivalent, right, in our world, and kind of lost Murad, and it would seem like a bit of a waste for them to develop up that character so much and then just kill her off. Because I think that at the end of Warlords of Draenor, we will leave this version of Draenor in a complete ruin, but our victory in terms of what we do in Draenor, of course, will be stopping whatever happens from destroying our world, but also taking some refugees back with us. And perhaps she could be the leader of those refugees. I think it would be a very interesting plot line, and they could do some cool character work there. Of course, that's a bit harder to say on the Horde side. I mean, the stuff that happens to Ganar, and then also Duratan has got an equivalent in our world, so we can't just have two Duratans, especially Drekthar, because according to the lore, despite the fact players are probably killed him millions of times at this stage, Drekthar is alive, so we couldn't have two Drekthars rolling around the place either. I don't know what's going to happen to the Horde people, but I would say don't get too attached, because I really find it hard to believe that Blizzard would have duplicate characters in our timeline. I think that would be getting to the territory where really you're kind of pulling time travel bullshit. I mean, with Yrel, she's a complete new character, right? So it's not like she's a duplicate or anything like that if she were to come over to our timeline. Though I suppose there is one kind of interesting fan theory, and that is that Yrel and her sister Samara are actually the Eredar twins from the Burning Crusade, and there may be some sort of alt-universe thing going on there. I think it's a cute theory, but I'm pretty sure that there's nothing particularly that unique about there being two sisters. I mean, that's a pretty common thing to have. So personally, I don't think that they are duplicate characters. Anyway, let's move on to the final question, which is from Sade Games, who asked, basically said that it's been speculated that Kil'jaeden kind of wants to overthrow Sargeras and take the Legion for himself. And I was asked, do I think this is possible if he came to Azeroth or something? Also I was asked about the Old Gods manipulating him. So first of all, I don't think the Old Gods are really capable of manipulating Kil'jaeden. I know that he was sort of manipulated by Sargeras in the first place, but Kil'jaeden is the really, really smart one. as far as him and Archimonde go. Of course, Archimonde is a tad dead, not going to be doing that much really with us, but Kil'jaeden is smart. He's the cunning one. He's the one that works in the sort of background with, you know, just doing interesting little cute plans here and there. So I don't think he's going to get himself manipulated by the old gods. I think he's too smart for that, in a way. Though perhaps he might either manipulate the old gods themselves, which is kind of unlikely, or at least have some sort of bizarre shaky alliance with them, because the old gods do love their chaos, and a giant Burning Legion invasion certainly brings a lot of chaos. I'd imagine that if that were to happen, there'd be the big Legion invasion, and then the old gods would, you know, after the sort of chaos has happened, would just try to wipe out the Legion on the planet. Something like that. Of course, there's also speculation that there are other old gods in other planets, so maybe there's some crazy wider universe thing going on here, but I just don't know. Actually, I don't think anyone really knows. They haven't outright confirmed old god stuff in other worlds, so we'll just have to wait and see if they ever do that. But anyway, back onto the topic of Kil'jaeden and Sargeras. We know that the stuff on Azeroth is super powerful because Sargeras has worked a long time. You know, he did all that stuff with Egwene and the Avatar of Sargeras, which I'm pretty sure Noble actually covered in one of his more recent videos, so check that out if you want to learn more. But essentially, Sargeras wants this planet because of its power, and if this planet has got so much feckin' power on it that he wants it, him, I suppose lore-wise, being one of the most powerful beings in existence, then I'd say surely it would give Kil'jaeden a fighting chance at overthrowing him. Now, do I think that's something that I really want to happen in terms of the lore? Not really. I like the idea of Sargeras being the big bad that we eventually kill. I don't know, I just think it would be a little bit cheap if he just sort of got knocked off in the lore or something like that by Kil'jaeden. I suppose ideally what will happen is we'll have some sort of giant invasion against our planet, probably spearheaded by Kil'jaeden. Now, of course, Archimonde's plan failed in Warcraft 3, so now it's Kil'jaeden's sort of turn to have a bit of a go at our world. But after that, maybe that's when we go to Argus, which is apparently, it's like this giant Legion fortress world. And from what I've read, if memory serves correctly, it's one of the main hubs of the Burning Legion, so maybe we could go there and do something. It's of course very hard to speculate at this point, but hey, it's still fun. Ultimately though, I really like fighting the Burning Legion. It means we get to go into space, there's a few more science fiction elements going on. I love the idea of going to Argus again, because I love my sci-fi, and seeing more Draenei stuff would be really cool. And I just think they're a really good enemy, you know, we're used to fighting orcs at this stage, so I think merging this and the first question, I'd like it if for a while we were fighting Naga, maybe the odd undead, some Burning Legion demons, just lots of varied stuff. I think that would be great. Anyway, that's been it for this Q&A. As I said, if you do have a question of your own, leave it down in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.